Now we know how to create a Gantt chart and we can use it to develop the project budget. In this session, I will show you what the different steps are that you have to follow. The first thing is about adding the cost to the activities. Then we will add the cost to the activities on the different Gantt chart. Remember that we had a Gantt chart with all activities in early start and one with all activities in the late start. Once we have the schedule baseline, we can use the adjusted Gantt to determine the cost baseline, and finally we will compare all three different budget curves and define the critical path position of the project. Let us start with the activities, the precedence information and the cost. What we basically have to do is to estimate the cost of each activity by understanding the nature of the activity. We did that earlier when we defined the activity description, estimated its duration and cost. The cost of an activity is the combination of material and human resources that is typically expressed as a cost per period, or can also be expressed as a total cost to complete the activity. It's important to provide a realistic cost of the activity because it will be used later to review the progress of the project when using earned value management. For simplification of the exercise in this example, I will use a fixed periodic cost for all activities of 5K or 5,000. In reality, there may be different, more complex possibilities, but the principle remains the same. Here is the early start position Gantt chart again, but now I added the periodic cost of the activities to it. In order to determine the cost per period, we add all costs of the activities for each period. For example, in period 1, we take the sum of all costs and add them, which gives a total of 10. When we look at period 5, we find a total of 15 and so on. We do this for all periods and we find what is called the time-phased budget. In this case, for early start. The next thing to do is to determine the cumulative budget by adding the cost of the period to the total cost of all previous periods. We start with period 1, which has a cost of 10 and also a cumulative cost of 10 since there are no other activities before period 1. For period 2, we add the cost of period 2, which is 10, to the cumulative cost of period 1, and we get a new cumulative cost equal to 20. We continue this until we reach the last period, in this case period 12, with a total cost of 120K. This is also the budget at completion of this project. Now we do the same for the late start position of the project and calculate the time-phased budget and the cumulative budget in the same way. When you would compare the results with the previous slide, you will see that the time-phased budget looks different, hence the cumulative budget is also different, but we find the same budget at completion. I did not look into the resource problem, but what can happen is that some resources would be overutilized and we have to adjust the schedule using smoothing or leveling, and we would find a new start and finish time for all activities. And this is given in this new chart. You will see that some activities have been moved, although I did not touch the critical path activities because changing them would lead to a change of duration of the project. This leads to a third core curve for the time-phased and cumulative budget. Here I refer to the planned start position. You will notice again that the intermediate values are different, but also that the budget at completion did not change. This is of course logical because the project remains unchanged. In this last slide, you find all budget data combined and represented in a graph. Let's first have a look at the table below the graph. Here you find the cumulative budget for respectively early start, late start, and planned start. It is easy to compare all the numbers, and you see immediately that the curves are different from the first period on, but the endpoint or budget at completion is for all the same. The early start position S-curve is represented in green. and shows the budget curve with the highest flexibility. The late start position is represented in red and is to the left of the green curve, and here is no flexibility left because all activities are on the critical path. The blue curve with the planned start and finish times is between the two curves, and we refer to this as the critical path position of the project. The closer the blue curve is to the green curve, the higher flexibility we have, and when it is closer to the red curve, the less flexibility is. Another element is important. Since the budget curve relates to the project spending during the project execution, it is also the cash flow curve. And we see that when all activities are in early start, the cash is spent earlier, while in the late start position, the cash is spent later. Spending money earlier or later has an effect on the financial performance of the project. There also may be other reasons to change the start times and duration of activities. In some cases, some activities have a lot of slack. It increases flexibility of the project by reducing the slack and start the activities later. Of course, we have to see to it that we don't reduce the slack to zero, because it would increase the risk level of the project. This is the end of this session. I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.